It's vital to our nation's global security and an important part of our local economy. Buckley Air Force Base is one of our best kept secrets here in Aurora. Most of what happens is classified, but we get to talk to the man in charge. What is Team Buckley, and why is their mission so important to all of us? I'm Wendy Brockman. Dateline Aurora starts right now. Thanks for joining us for Dateline Aurora. Persistent global surveillance. 3 words that set the mission at Buckley Air Force Base, a mission critical to our national defense here and around the globe. I am thrilled to have Colonel John Wagner, the new commander of the 460th Space Wing and Buckley Air Force Base, here with us today. Colonel Wagner, welcome.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It is awesome to be here with you today, and I can't wait to just share some insights that talk about our people and our mission here at Buckley and the community that supports us.
We are thrilled. A little bit about you. You graduated from the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, so this is kind of a homecoming for you. Welcome back.
Thanks so much. This is our 3rd time back, if you count the first time as a student.
Right.
They didn't let us out much as cadets back then, but you know, back here really in the early 2000s, working at Space Command and the Space Warfare Center back then, and it is great to be back here. Our kids really were raised here, if you will, so my wife and I met here. We raised our kids here, 1st graders through 4th graders, and now we're back again, and we're empty nesters now, but we're excited to be back and looking forward to the great things that Colorado has to offer.
Where did your career take you after the Air Force Academy?
So I wanted to be a part of the space program kind of as a little guy, and I was really fortunate to graduate from the academy and go down to Cape Canaveral Air Force Station back then, and I wanted to be around really what I thought was the heart of the space program, and really these massive rockets called Titan.
And you were. That's where you were right in it,
so
weren't you?
I was. Titan 4 was the rocket at the time. Was brand new rocket that was replacing the Defense Department payloads from the space shuttle. They were offloaded after the Challenger disaster, but really being able to work day to day on these vehicles that produce 3 million pounds of thrust. We think the F-16s flying over generate a lot of noise, but these things, when they go up, they shook foundations, and it was pretty impressive to watch those take off. And you get a super joy and a job satisfaction to know that you worked from the start to finish to see this thing go up into space and produce the nation's security, if you will, from our satellites that are vigilant warriors around the globe.
And you've worked in the Pentagon.
I did. That was my assignment before I went to California. I started at the Cape Canaveral, got to go overseas to do some space work over there, came back, got I guess one of the master's degrees.
One of 5.
And then went from there to Colorado, and then Colorado to Alabama, Alabama back to Florida, Florida to Washington, D.C. So it's been a very interesting career, very fortunate educational opportunities in the Air Force, really a great way of life, and I'm fortunate to be back here in Colorado.
Well, so now here you are at Buckley Air Force Base. For 14 years, it's been an Air Force base. How do you think the transition to it becoming an Air Force base has kind of shaped it today?
Well, we've seen Buckley grow amazing, leaps and bounds, if you will, from really the inception. It was really part of World War II, as you know, if we go back into the auxiliary field for Lowry, and then it kind of grew over time, became part of the Navy for a while, and then became an Air National Guard base for a long period. Great heritage from Guard. Now we have reserve on the base, so you can see Buckley start to grow more and more, particularly taking momentum since it became an Air Force base in 2000, with the Air Reserve Personnel Center servicing 1 million reservists around the world, and a lot of folks don't know the impact that has on all our reservists. So all their records are all kept on Buckley. They take care of the entire personnel for the Air Force Reserve. The mission for the Space Wing, I know we'll get into that in a minute, what we do for, you mentioned persistent global surveillance. Persistent, we're up all the time, 24/7, 365, have a global mission. We really look all corners of the globe, even along the poles, and then surveillance. We call ourselves the home of missile warning, because if a missile launches on the face of the earth, we want to make sure we can find, fix, and track it, because it's super important to our national defense.
It's super important is an understatement. We got to meet you on base and take a tour, which was great. So let's take a look at some highlights of that visit.
Okay, so the essence of what I want people to know when they walk in here as they pass over our carpet here, when they say, welcome to the 460th Space Wing, our 3 words are persistent, it's all the time, never sleeps, 24/7, 365, global, around the world. I mean, it's not just one part of the world, it's around the world, and surveillance, because that's what we do. We watch, primarily for missile launches, but we watch bad guys do stuff all the time. But that's our heritage. So we're the Panthers and we're the 460th Space Wing because it's the 460th bomb wing lineage that was in World War II, then in Vietnam, well, in Korea, then Vietnam. So, and then we reactivated it as part of a Space Wing. The fact that we are in the fight around the world 24/7 in every theater, watching the Earth for every launch is amazing. And you know, people need to know at least an unclass version of what we do and how it enhances global security. Right? I mean, this little base here at Buckley, folks don't have an idea of how important the mission is worldwide. All services, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines represented here, joint, intelligence community, all that. But the essence of what we do, remember, this is the home of space-based missile warning. DSP satellite, infrared telescope, looking for hotspots on the cold Earth. So it spins around at 22,300 miles plus, if you will, and then relays information back to us about what it sees. What's making the news is coming out of the data that we send out of here.
So those satellites are pretty mind-blowing, the capability that they have. What kind of information do they transmit back to Buckley?
So really, it's a infrared telescope that was developed really in the 70s to look deep over land masses that we couldn't access with airplanes. So former Soviet Union is one of those areas, and as they continue to evolve, they get better and better. So not just detecting really missiles, but looking around the world as well at really a lot of different things that help us have the global awareness that provides really the insight for us to relay to national decision makers of things that are happening around the globe.
So how important could that information potentially be?
Well, I think it's a cornerstone of national security, but this little base in your community is in the fight 24/7, 365, really looking and enhancing global security.
We see and hear the jets all the time. My neighbor calls it the sound of freedom whenever
Absolutely.
they fly over, I agree. But the F-16s are really just one piece of a really big picture there, aren't they?
That's right, that's right. So remember I talked a little bit about when I said I went to Cape Canaveral and thought I was going to the heart of the space program. That's really what you see. In essence, all those vehicles that launch from the Cape, 90% of it is throwaway. It just gets it up to orbit. The real mission is day to day, again, that 24/7, 365 mission. Satellites like we operate every day were launched from the Cape, and it is amazing the fact that, yes, you see a piece of it, you see the aircraft, you see Army helicopters, so part of the big Aurora Big Five, right? There's 5 big partners that we have. The 140th Wing flying the F-16s, Army Aviation and the Army National Guard here flying 3 different types of helicopters, and both of those units deploy, so they're in the fight every day as well. We have the ADF working the Airspace Defense Facility here, working a very important intelligence mission. We have the Naval Operations Center here on base, and they train Navy reservists really for the state and a whole Denver area. So if you look at the impact that Buckley has from a total force standpoint, Guard, Reserve, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines here on base, there's a Joint Force Headquarters, 85 tenants on base. So really a small footprint, but over 13,000 people not only live in the area, but work on base. So those are all families that here contribute to our mission.
So when you refer to Team Buckley, you're referring to that?
Absolutely. Team Buckley is total. It is a very unique Air Force base. And again, from our guard roots as a guard base to the reserve component that we have that's so important to really our Air Force and our national defense, because we couldn't do it without our guard and reserve. There's not enough active duty to do all of our missions, particularly the pace of deployments that we've had in the last 10 years. It's been pretty incredible. And so Buckley Airmen, Buckley Warriors, Buckley naval officers, Buckley, it has been, Buckley's name has been out there. They've had a huge impact on where we've been and where we're going. So I would hearken the fact that I guess we're standing on the shoulders of some giants here that have preceded me in this job. But each of those, the big five, if you will, has a huge impact on where we are and where we're going. And so that is pretty critical to the fact that Buckley has really grown leaps and bounds over the last 10 years. When
you say Buckley is the home of missile warning, what does that mean?
So again, for space-based missile warning, when we get an indication, so say a launch out of Cape Canaveral, we're going to see that plume from our satellites 22,300 miles up. So if there is a missile being launched from wherever around the Earth, both theater and strategic, it's our job to detect that, pick it up, and send that data back to national decision makers.
And you can. You know when someone's firing it.
We have to.
You absolutely have to. The iconic radomes, they look like giant golf balls. They're part of the missile warning system. Most of it's classified, but can you tell us a little bit about what happens inside those domes?
Well, those are antennas that really talk to our satellites that are around the world. So those, it's just really protection for our antennas that you see, large dish antennas around the country anywhere, but it helps protect our infrastructure, and those antennas are swiveling around, pointing to the satellites that they're getting their data from, really sentinels in space, if you will, I refer to them, that are really looking, providing that data back to our, again, to the wing, to our airmen. And it's not just our airmen. We're not only total force. One thing I forgot to bring forward is the fact that we are a coalition. So United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada have huge roles in what we do as well. So they're part of our team.
And the fact that those satellites are covered, what is the purpose for that?
Again, protection, longevity. We want to make sure that we can stay around for a long time, if you will. There's not a lot of harsh weather here in Colorado, but it does snow, it does freeze, and it really protects our not only our equipment but electronics, and the fact that we want to be able to always provide that data and not be down for an equipment malfunction or some other issue that for some reason, if we couldn't get that data back to our decision makers, that would be an issue. So again, persistent, it increases our persistence.
Beyond the defense aspect, there's a huge economic factor when we're talking about Buckley. You mentioned more than 13,000 people work there, and each year it's an estimated $1 billion with a B is generated in the Aurora community. That's mind-boggling.
Right.
What are some of the other tenants that are on the base? Maybe some of the civilian tenants that you have there?
Well, I mentioned there's 85 tenants, and
I did not realize
wide-ranging from, everything from, we're working a selective service, that when you're 18, you register with a selective service, so we're working to get those folks on base, to, I mentioned the big five. I talked about the ADF, Aerospace Defense Facility, very important customer, if you will, of Team Buckley, because we provide that infrastructure for them as well. The Naval Ops Center, the 2 flying units I mentioned already, the Air Reserve Personnel Center, huge. Those are the biggest impacts, but there are, there's Joint Force Headquarters there. There's a number of tenant facilities that are important in their own right, and I would be here probably all morning talking with you about the rest of them. I'm super proud of what they do because everybody has an impact to national security.
We saw you address Aurora City Council in July. What is your vision for maybe partnering with the community? You talked a lot about that.
Well, when I talked to the city council, this is really, our chief of staff came right before my change of command and talked a little bit about this. So chief of staff of the Air Force, very fortunate to have him out. But our Air Force bases are really, I would think this is the model for the future of the Air Force, if you will, Air Force bases.
Buckley is the model.
I would think so.
Really?
Because gone are the days where we can afford a separate golf course on base, for example. Swimming pools on base. So when we talk public-private partnerships, really this is a test case for a lot of the DoD of how we partner with the city of Aurora and the surrounding communities, because not only do we work on base, we live off base in a lot of cases. There is some base housing now, but some of the amenities, if you will, of the base, we just don't have. We don't have a movie theater, so we go to the really the rich community that surrounds us for entertainment, relaxation, all the dining establishments. What a great place to live and work.
So you're talking about maybe some future partnerships, maybe involving a gun range, maybe some traffic improvements, maybe kind of a medical base that
Right.
you might have on campus. These are things where you would be working with the city of Aurora?
We're working. Matter of fact, we just met with the Aurora Chamber of Commerce yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Had a great discussion, a great dialogue on what they provide, and really mind-blowing for what they do for not only the city of Aurora, Team Buckley, but the state of Colorado, and how they advocate for us and future missions of what's here and why it's so fertile, if you will, to come to Colorado, because it is a very robust team partnership here, and we are super fortunate to have that partnership. And you mentioned a couple of key things that we want to work on. We want to really work on our traffic flow in and out of base, because I know, and I've seen it, that there is a problem in the morning with construction trucks and trying to get folks on base to make sure that we don't impact the surrounding community if there's a backup as it goes on to Mississippi or Alameda or other surrounding roads, because we want to be good stewards and good community partners as well. So we're going to try to clean that up. We have right now we're off base in the VA center, and we're looking at bringing some folks on base to make sure we can have robust family care for medical.
So maybe have your medical care a little bit closer to
So
Buckley.
we're working a couple of alternatives, but to try, it is an issue of trying to get on and off base, particularly if you're dealing with sick kids or sick spouse or whatever. So we want to make sure we can take care of the teammates that are on base. But there is a great support, again, around the community, and we want to make sure that we're good partners as we continue to move forward.
And maybe working with the Aurora Police Department.
Absolutely, and well, you brought up the shooting range. So our security forces have to make sure that they're proficient, and not only do they have a deployment role, but for security on base as well. So to help them stay proficient, the City of Aurora in partnership with shooting range is very important. So you know, I think all the utilities, if you will, we're looking at how we partner with our fire department. I know we've had a pretty big impact when the wildfires happened. We sent a couple of trucks down and contributed to fire control. If there's a disturbance on base, I think we've got a good partnership with the City of Aurora as well. So I think I'm really looking forward to the great success I think that we're going to have in the coming years, given the fact that we are where we are now and seeing where we're going to go in the future. This is a really great partnership, and I think important, as we mentioned, to the foundation of our national defense.
Is Buckley the fastest growing Air Force base?
You know, it has been over the past 10 years. As we talk about becoming an Air Force base in 2000 all the way through to 2014, this is the 10th anniversary this year of the wing. Mm-hmm. So the 460th Space Wing stood up in 2004. And we were an Air Base wing prior to that, the 460th Air Base Wing, but an Air National Guard base prior to 2000. So the 1990s, the Guard continues to have a strong impact. But as far as the installation growth here, we looked at, if you look at the commissary, the base exchange, health services, you look at the security, the headquarters we're brought on base, the 85 partners. And I think, again, if the Air Force looks at this as a model, this is really where I think we're telling a good story.
Yeah.
And being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and the fact that we don't need a golf course on base,
Right.
Because we can leverage the great golf courses in the community.
Right.
We don't, we've got a great gym on base, but if you need other facilities, Aurora has a lot to offer. Dining facilities, there's not a lot of dining facilities on base, so there is a lot of transit back and forth on and off base, and again, we're trying to make sure that we're good partners as we do that.
So you're growing. How do you balance that with recent budget cuts?
Well, I think we're making smart investments. The Air Force and the Department of Defense continues to make smart investments in the fact that really there's not a lot of fluff. What we do here is essential to mission, essential to national security. And then if you look at the surrounding community, Buckley really is the only base, active base in the Denver area. We look at Greeley and you look at some other places that are guard bases, and you down south to the Academy and then Peterson and then Schriever. But really this is it with the closure of Lowry. So we serve not only active duty, but up to 90,000 retirees as well. Wow. So they're coming on base as well to take advantage of their benefits. We really want to be good, a great community, good health care, good shopping, if you will, for what we do for our base exchange and our commissary. But the heart of it is the mission. There's just not a lot of extra things on Buckley, because you come to Buckley, you work on the mission, we take care of our people, and then they really, most folks, again, most of the 13,000 go back into their surrounding communities, and we hope they're some of your best citizens.
Well, you can golf at Murphy Creek.
Awesome.
Right next door. You will serve 2 years as the commander.
We hope.
We hope. That's your slot. What is the main thing you'd like to accomplish? What can you accomplish in 2 years?
Well, we talk about missile warning. Missile warning consists of defense support. I'll throw out some acronyms and some names here. Defense support program satellites, space-based infrared satellites, space-based infrared highly elliptical satellites. So all those components and various different satellites and ground stations around the world comprise our system of what we do. As we continue to invest in the space-based infrared program, you're going to see Buckley continue to grow a little bit more. And our focus over the next 2 years is making SBIRS, as we call it, space-based infrared system, the very best it can possibly be. Because our nation, our national leadership expects nothing less. So it really is persistent global surveillance, but I'd also add the caveat that perfection is the standard. It's hard to be perfect. So a lot of training, a lot of education as we bring airmen and other warriors to the base to do that job so well that they do today.
You guys have a new runway. So what kind of dignitaries do you see? Who flies in and out of Buckley? So
I took command on the 12th of June. The runway's been under construction ever since. We opened it to F-16s just recently.
Yes.
But the large aircraft, the runway's not completely finished yet. Partnering with the 140th, we expect, who knows? I mean, we know that the president and others have come on.
Yeah, he's been there before.
So, we look forward to creating the best possible environment, the most secure environment that we can, to make sure that any dignitaries, if you will, that want to come to Buckley can come to Buckley, and as well as making it available and accessible to families as well. So, but the runway itself, very important mission for F-16s, and then transient aircraft will support as ordered.
Okay. If they're coming, you better be ready.
Yes, ma'am.
So President Obama has flown into Buckley before. This was before you tore up the runway.
Before we tore up the runway, absolutely. Want to make it nice and smooth and,
yes.
and ready for Air Force One, should they ever decide to land.
No turbulence on Air Force One.
That's right.
Okay, so Facebook. Which side are you on? Are you the pro side or the anti-Facebook side? Be honest.
I don't have a Facebook account.
I don't either.
So I'll be totally honest with you. But my wife does, and she's very good at it. My public affairs team is saying, hey, it's the best way to connect with today's the airmen in today's Air Force, because Facebook is a part of our life. So social media is huge. So I'm learning. So
okay.
I'm crawl, walk, run kind of thing. I'm in the crawl stage.
Well, your Facebook page has a lot of interesting videos and photographs, and it's a great way for the community to kind of share in what's going on. So you plan to be a part of that social media?
So like Buckley Air Force Base, I mean,
yes, like it,
and,
exactly.
And it's great for our airmen, for our families to get the news and what's happening, and our team does a pretty good job of making it humorous as well. So
yeah, there's some funny stuff on
so
there.
we're the Black Panthers, if you will. That's our heritage. That goes back to World War II. I talked a little bit about that in the video, and that was the 460th Bomb Wing, the Black Panthers. So we're the Panthers, and you'll see Buck Lee as the Panther do more and more in his role of trying to keep professionalism on Buckley Air Force Base.
All right, so it will be a major event when you do your first tweet. Are you going to tweet?
I don't know about tweet. I just want to get on Facebook and put some and publish some photos. I tell you, it's been not quite 2 months in command, and the medical group, the support group, the operations group, they've all had great deep dives to where I've seen our people, our products, our processes, and our airmen and their families are doing some great things. I got a chance to really interact with the Army aviation and the helicopters that they fly, meet the 140th wing, and they have a space mission as well. So it really has been a great interactive couple of months, if you will, a month and a half. And so we're taking photos as we go, and I want to make sure I can thank folks by publishing their photo. And I had an airman draw blood one day, and I said, hey, does anybody want to pick on the wing commander and draw the wing commander's first blood, if you will? And they picked the very youngest guy, and so he was nervous. And
oh, no.
And it was, but it was great. Got some good photos, but I really want to thank them for their service. They're all doing a great job, and it is amazing what they do for our nation.
So this is really the most important question. Broncos preseason starts this week. We play Seattle. So how are the Broncos going to look this year? What are your thoughts?
Well, we just had the appendectomy thing is going to be tough, right? But once we get through that, I'm sure he'll be back, and we'll have a full running back team. But
you think so?
Yeah, I think they're going to be strong. I know Peyton Manning's got a great leadership style, and he will bring the best.
He's a good
out.
soldier.
He'll bring the best out in everybody, and it'll be good. So it'll be fun to watch. I mean, not only. We're right here in the heart of Denver, really, kind of the best community off to the side with Aurora. We've got sports teams. We've got the Rockies playing right now. The Rockies came and visited the wing the other day, and it was a great visit with those guys. So we're so fortunate to have the entertainment opportunities here as well. So Thursday night football.
Yes.
Ready to go.
Have you been to Southlands, the new movie theater?
I wasn't in the movie theater, but
it's amazing. They redid it with these great lounge chairs that recline, and
you see,
so
this
yeah,
is why
have your guys check out the movie theater.
This is why we don't need a movie theater on base.
You don't go to
Southlands. Because it's just in short drive. You're in probably the best entertainment venues in the state.
Absolutely. Well, we were talking about your Facebook page for our viewers. You can find the Facebook page and lots of other updates from Buckley Air Force Base on your website. All you have to do is visit buckley.af.mil or call the Buckley Public Affairs number at 720-847-9226. And remember to tune into Aurora News Weekly, where we will continue to include coverage of events on Buckley Air Force Base as they happen. Colonel John Wagner, you are a very busy guy. So thank you for taking the time to stop by and chat with us.
Look, this is awesome. The fact that you're able to do this and highlight Buckley Air Force Base, a little bit of what we do, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Our pleasure. Welcome to Aurora.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service to this country.
Thank you so much.
That's it for this edition of Dateline Aurora. I'm Wendy Brockman. We hope to see you next time.